Today we're going to learn why you don't buy a short block from some guy on Facebook Marketplace. And that's pretty much the lesson for today. So let's get into it. Okay, so here is the short block in question. It's already had the head stripped off, the oil pump. It is essentially just a bare short block. And that being said, we've got to get to the crank, check the connecting rod bearings, pull the pistons out. So we've got some things to do. I'm just going to jump into this and kind of show you the process of taking apart one of these. It's nothing hard, it's nothing too crazy, especially if you have some tools that are designed for measuring. We'll get into that when we cross that bridge. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the wrist pins out of the pistons, and to do that we need to access them through these two holes, and that is a H14, so it's a 14 mil hex. And these may not come off this easy. You may have to use a breaker bar or something a little bit more robust to get those off. But essentially, they should come off fairly easy. Okay, here at the back of the motor, we've got this access panel and then this panel right here to take off. You'll notice they are put on with Phillips head screw bits, or basically screws. So we kind of need a special tool. This is kind of the first place that we need to find a specialty tool to get these off. This is that tool. It's called impact driver set. And essentially, it's basically a screwdriver that you can hit with a hammer. Put it in our first bolt. I think I've already hit some of these to get them loose. And you're just gonna give it a couple taps. And basically you're impacting that screw in a way that won't strip out, it won't round out, you know, like where these, if you were to try to do this by hand, it wouldn't work. So please make sure you have something like this, because these are not going to be something you can get with a normal screwdriver. Okay. Now that we've gotten all the bolts out of this, or nuts, we're going to just, there's a little lip right here under that arrow that you can pry that off. That came off very easily. So I'm gonna, had luck just doing that. So that's off. And actually this is, funny enough, kind of a built-in air oil separator for the motor. Okay, with that off, we've got one more access panel hex that we have to take off. It's the same size as the one. Oh, that was actually barely on there. So we just have to unzip that, and then we are ready to remove all of our wrist pins from our connecting rods. Okay, so in order to move our connecting rods, first thing we have to do for any rod is remove these little circlip things that are holding that in. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let me try to adjust the light a little bit better. So you see those little prongs? And should be able to compress that. It's hard to do while holding a light. Pull that out. Okay, let me show you what I've got going on here. I've got this wrist pin halfway out, and then I've got this extension basically hitting the wrist pin, going through the block, hitting the other side of the wrist pin. So once you get that into position, you do have to rotate the motor back over to get that in the place where it can actually clear the hole, the access panel. Okay, so now I've got this rubber mallet on the back here. I'm just gonna hit that. Okay, we've almost got our piston out. We just had to hit it a little bit more. Our wrist pin. The wrist pin itself looks like it's in good shape. Okay, cylinder number three is about lined up. You just have to do the same thing. Hopefully. No, let's say my needle nose may be too wide to get that sucker out. Nope, we got it. Very good. So now we just attack this one from the front the same way we did this one from the back. Okay, now that this cylinder, this piston is free from the rod, we've got a lot more room to move this through. Okay, we've got our extension in place here. We're hitting this, and we're starting to run into the wall there. So we're just going to have to leave our extension in place and rotate this over like that, I think. I think that's almost good. Good deal. We're almost there. Oh, there it goes. Okay. There's our other wrist pin out. Really, these are not in bad shape at all. I would reuse these assuming the pistons themselves are still round. Okay. This side's a little bit easier, I think, without that access panel there. Much easier to get that out. Okay, we are in place. Let's just get back to the back of the motor. See if I can actually catch this one. Okay. Cool thing about using this extension set is that this actually fits in and then stops. So it's pretty cool way to do it. Again, this wrist pin looks fine. Okay, we got one last little clip. That came out pretty easily. Okay, so a rod was wedged in there, and I had to kind of put a put some metal into something like this, into some of these other holes to prop the rod up while I rotated the engine block out. So we should be ready to hopefully bust out our last wrist pin. Okay, ended up getting everything situated, and you kind of have to rotate the motor over and play with it a little bit. Hard to. Come on. Getting close. There we go. Our last wrist pin. Our next job really is either to take the pistons out, which we could do, but we're going to have to take the block apart anyways. So my thought is just take the block apart. That's going to benefit us in the long run anyways, rather than learning how to take pistons out. So what we're going to need is to take all the case bolts out. And I'll show you those right now. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 12 mils up top. And then I believe we have one of these, which is a 12 point, probably a 12 point, yeah, 12.12. And if you look inside the block, I don't know if you can see that or not, there's one right there. And then there's another one down here. Those are 12 points also. And then same in the other side. And then also there's one in the back. Sorry, there's no light back there. This is probably the trickiest one to get to. But we'll get there. So I'm just going to start disassembling this. So we've got to get this last bolt off. This is what I've come up with. It's a swivel socket, and it's not exactly going to swivel. It's more of just a low profile way to use this. Kind of have to have it wedged in the right spot, unfortunately. So see if I can make that happen. How did that work the first time, huh? Okay. There we go. Probably not how this is supposed to be used, but basically you make it, of course you have different tools than me, but make it so that this is binding up and it comes out just fine. Ugh. All that RTV on this thing. That is a lot of RTV. Word to the wise. Word from the wise, I guess. When your buddy says he can build a motor, I wouldn't trust him right away. So we still have yet to find any issues with this block, other than there's RTV everywhere. Now with the arduous task of actually trying to separate this thing out, which is going to be a trick. I can see some spots where the previous guy has gone at it with a screwdriver. That may work. Ideally, you'd probably place a jack, one of those post jacks, or even your scissor jack from your car. Probably post that right there and get this thing to separate pretty easily without damaging it too much. I don't even have a scissor jack anymore, so I'm gonna have to get creative. So I'm starting to get it separated with a screwdriver there. I've got another one up top. I'm gonna keep, you see these milled surfaces where they're nice and smooth. Keep away from trying to pry anywhere around those, because you don't want to damage that, and then your oil pump doesn't seal like what would happen here. You don't want to, like, you know, just these milled surfaces. There's plenty of places, like I wouldn't do it right here, because that's where your oil pan wants to go. So just find places that you can put in a screwdriver, slowly wedge it apart, and break that RTV up. That's really the challenge. The other thing you can do, basically you're just going to need a bunch of screwdrivers, and then everywhere you can find, there's another little spot up on top. There's a little plate. That's basically what that plate is designed for. You know, in here, this is the oil galley. I wouldn't touch too much stuff in here other than this plate is fine. There's also a little portion at the bottom, the back. It's actually designed for that. Designed to kind of pry apart this block. So you just kind of got to keep at it until you get the whole thing apart. Okay, I just wanted to clarify. There are 6 of these long bolts. Took me actually a minute to find them. There's 2 basically on the other side underneath there. So once that happens, you can pry here, pry a little bit here and there. And this thing should pop through without too much drama. Staying clear of any mating surfaces, the oil galley or anything of that nature. Get that in there. You are really stuck on something. Seems like. About got it. There are some dowels that hold the block together. There's one right there. I have to kind of we're so close. We're so close. It'd probably be a lot easier if I had this on a easy screen. And there we go. So I think I found the problem here. That is some locking nut from an Ace Hardware. The rest should look like that. Wow. Let me see. This is the one that's knocking. I don't know if you can see how much side to side play there is there. I'll make this over just a little bit. It's not quite knocking because there's just enough oil there to keep it from happening. But yeah, there's your problem. Let's see if we can get that off real quick. It shouldn't be too torqued down. I'm gonna bet we're gonna find a chewed up bearing underneath that. Okay. That one's actually a 12. Let's see what this one is. It's not even the same size. Oh my God. So, what we have here is not supposed to be there. That is pretty pathetic. I can't imagine somebody rebuilding a motor for somebody, charging them money, and that's what's inside of it. That is soul crushing that there's people out there that will do something like that. That one wasn't even torqued. Let me see. Look at that. I have not touched this. That is not torqued down. What about this one? No. makes you wonder, oh yeah, I wonder why your rods are knocking. Because I don't know if drugs are bad. Don't build important things and get high and forget to do the stuff that you're supposed to do. Oh my gosh. That means probably every one of these conrod bearings is toast. And who knows if they, I mean, you think they put the effort in to get the right measurement on the connecting rod bearings? Probably not. We will be. Oh, that's gone forever. No, it's right there. I'll get that in a second. Yeah, toast. Toast. So, and then this thing, I can't even believe this. You know, these are supposed to be torqued down very specifically for oil tolerances and things like that. This wasn't even tight. So you know the guy didn't put it together and measure it. Sorry, I keep bumping the camera there. Yeah, absolutely torched. And he said this thing ran for all of, you know, a minute. Excited to get his car back together. And this is what he's met with. That's... Whew. Okay, let's see what surprises this last rod has for us. Get this up. There we go. Alrighty, what's on you? Oh my goodness. Another one. Okay, people. Well, lesson learned. Have a reputable person build your short block for you, please. Otherwise, I'm just going to have a lot more content going through these things, because that is... Like, I'm mad for him. I have nothing to do with it other than I'm taking it apart, but I'm kind of mad for the guy, aren't you? Who... Well, I guess I'm going to wrap this up here. Also, it seems like our crank probably isn't going to be that great. It's got some light grooves in it. I'll look and see what the tolerance is in the big book. Yep. It shouldn't look like this after running how long it did. That is pathetic. Pathetic. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching that disaster unfold. So, lesson learned. Pick up a short block from a reputable source, or make sure whoever is doing the rebuild knows what the heck they're doing. But thank you all for watching, and as always, keep racing.